Hello, everyone. Welcome to Newcastle Fans TV, the Black and White Show. I am joined by Rob and Johnny. Rob, how are you doing?
Yeah, I am good, thanks. And yourself?
Not bad, thank you for asking. Just finished work. Johnny, how are you?
A bit bored, but I'm fine and I'm healthy and I'm safe, which is a lot better situation than some people in this country. So, I count myself very lucky. But how about yourself, Lee? You okay?
I'm not bored. I'm watching all this Bundesliga. I've told you about this before. Get watching Bundesliga.
Exactly.
Tonight we are talking about three things. We are talking about the latest of the Takeover, of course. And second part, we'll hear from Owen, and he's going to bring you loads of stats, something different. And then, obviously, 13-year anniversary of Mike Ashley today. But did you know you can WhatsApp us?
Want to get something off your chest? Interact with us in the live chat and WhatsApp us your messages on 0747 649 7166. This is the Black and White Show.
Now, that was smooth, lads. How good was that?
Very good, isn't it?
Wow, brilliant. Right, let's crack on with it. Johnny, I'll come to you because I've been to work today. You've probably seen this a lot more than me. Tell us what Richard Masters has said today. He is the chief executive of the Premier League.
Yeah, he's the big boss at the Premier League. He's had an interview with the BBC with Dan Rowan. And Dan Rowan asked him two questions about the Newcastle takeover. The first being, are you concerned about a sovereign state fund taken over a high-profile Premier League club? And he said, we can't disclose any information, etc., etc. It's a confidentiality agreement. So he batted the first question pretty well. Dan Rowan, again, tried his luck with an immediate question, an immediate follow-up, and basically something very similar. Are you concerned about the piracy? Are you concerned about, obviously, the letters, etc.? Everything that's against this potential takeover. And Luke Edwards has done a bit of digging, which Luke's very entitled to. I think he's one of the best out there. It was quite a clumsy answer, quite a clumsy opinion. It was basically asking him about the director's test with Dan Rowan, and he said the director's test is there for a reason. People need to pass this test if we want it to go well, but he couldn't disclose much information. The problem is there's a bit of controversy because every other platform's basically saying this deal's done. This deal will be announced next week. You know, we're going to touch about maybe people being in the stadium, but this deal's going to be done by the 1st of June. A lot of people are being kind of tipped off that thing. So it's kind of put a bit of, that's what I say, it's put the ice back in the cans, or the cans back in the ice, rather.
What are you drinking?
Because people are still.
What are you drinking?
I'm not drinking it. On the day, I'm drinking.
Oh, yeah.
On the day. Guinness on the day.
Guinness?
Yes.
It's
a bit of a clumsy answer by Richard Masters, but I don't think it's too much concern for Newcastle fans, because it does seem like everybody is saying the deal is done. The buyers are saying it's done. Mike Ashley seems to be reluctant to talk about anything in regards to football. So I would imagine 99% still done. I don't think there's much concern for Newcastle fans.
Interesting at all. Right, let's crack on with and she's back again, lads. We talked about this last week. And again, I'll apologise if I cannot pronounce her name. The widow of the alleged, and these are all alleged claims, I must stress, Hattie Cengiz, if I've pronounced that right. Apologies if I haven't. She's had another lovely love letter sent to the Premier League this time. Rob, she's obviously hurting, but do you feel that's just getting... I've got to be careful how I say this as well. Is this a PR job by somebody?
Well, first of all, absolute deepest sympathies to the widow of Jamal Khashoggi, and I can't imagine the pain that she must be going through ever since it happened. But at the same time, like I keep saying, this is a footballing issue, not a political issue. Politics should be kept out of this, and if she's tried to make herself clear once, I can't really see how doing the same thing again is going to help.
But it's the second time, and Johnny, we've seen it a few days ago that the PIF have put investment into companies such as Facebook, Disney. Yes, it's shares, and this is different because the Saudis will 80% own Newcastle United. Why is she picking Newcastle? Why not Facebook or why not Disney?
Because it's probably an easier way of communication. You can't exactly go and talk to the owner of the owner of Facebook, the owner of whoever, Disney or whatever. You can talk to Newcastle fans because they're part of the club. Everyone's got a Facebook account, but they don't really care about the long-term future of Facebook, really, if we're being brutally honest. The same with Disney. Exactly, Twitter. And, Disney, I know Rob likes his Disney, but that's another matter. But he might be a bit more concerned on that sort of stuff. But in terms of Newcastle, Newcastle fans are what Newcastle is all about. So she's picking the wrong battles, in my personal opinion. Look, I'm very, very much like Rob, my deepest sympathies. But you're fighting the wrong battle. Really, you're targeting the wrong people. You need to, if this is true, and I'll say if, you need to target the PIF, the Saudis. They're the ones you target. You don't target Newcastle fans. Yes, she's there to warn us, but we're big enough and bold enough, literally, to make our own decisions.
Yeah, I've got to agree on that as well. Remember, keep your WhatsApp coming in 0747 649 7166. Before I speak to you, Rob, what's your favourite Toy Story movie, Rob?
Oh, the third one.
Oh, no. Got to be the original. Got to be the original. Not having that, as my cat makes a lovely appearance once again. Rob, we'll just move off that as well. We're seeing a flurry, and you were quite sick of it, to be honest with you. And me, Kyle, and Owen were up. So I'll tell the viewers, well, me, Kyle, and Owen.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to sort of be a fly on the wall when the group chat was pinging at between 1:30 and 3:30 that morning, and that night it was really interesting. But they reached a point where I was turning into voice notes, and I just thought, just sort of, if it happens, it happens. It's something that we don't have a control over, like what me, Sam, and Paul were talking about in the mental health podcast, which will be out soon, by the way.
A nice plug. But yeah, you're seeing a flurry of journalists, but also, Sam, do your magic. We've seen the brother of the royal family come out and tweet, but what he's now done is actually hidden his actual account. You can see there now on your screens. He's now made it private, Rob. And this is the brother, this is the family of the royal family. And that's why I think we were all getting excited the other day through the night, thinking, oh my God, what's happening? And then you've seen all these verified journalists left, right, and centre. You were the calm head. Everyone else was losing theirs. You were the calm head. Why were you quite calm? Are you more of a case of, look, it'll happen, it'll happen?
Yeah. It's one of those things that, we as fans have no bearing over. We have no say as to whether this takeover deal goes through or doesn't go through. Therefore, the best thing we can do is stand by and watch what materializes. With every development, I don't really read much into it, because I think a lot of excitement of all of this has been caused by fans reading stories and then maybe getting a bit ahead of themselves, maybe giving their own interpretation of it, thinking that it was going to happen in the next day, and it spirals out of control. If one fan does it, then two fans do it, then before we know it, so many fans are doing this, and then all of a sudden social media is littered with, oh, it's happening tomorrow, when you see NUFC Takeover trending on Twitter, and all of a sudden, because it doesn't happen in the next day, you just think, well, that was a bit of hope. Yeah, it's a bit of hope, but at the same time, just hold on. It will happen. Thankfully, the reports this week do seem to suggest that it's rather when rather than if now.
Yes, Rob, that's what we want. We want you positive. We want you positive.
Yeah. And that's a positive. And I will celebrate like there's no tomorrow when it does happen. But at the same time, I'm just waiting for it to happen. I just want just wake me up when it's all done and dusted. I don't really want to read opinions of people saying, oh, it's going to be end of the week, this, that, and the other. Just wake me up when it happens.
I think you'll do a marathon in Newcastle. I think that's how you'll celebrate.
If it was allowed. I mean, 2 days ago, I did a 10K run followed by 100 press-ups, and I'm still regretting it now. And that was 2 days ago.
That's tough, that, Rob, because all Johnny does is run in the fridge and back. So, got that one in there, 1-0. 1-0. Johnny, obviously you talked about the piracy, and obviously you spoke to Jonathan Cross, if I can get my words out, a little bit early on in the week. And this is what he said.
You're watching the Black and White Show with Newcastle Fans TV.
I think the Premier League is much more centering on, the Saudi TV rights issue, and particularly the sort of the clash with beIN Sports. So I do think that's the issue that they have to overcome. I think a lot of people were writing, in sort of mid-April, weren't they? Basically, that the sort of the takeover would be completed by the end of the month, and I, for one, would have fully expected it to have completed by now. So there clearly are issues to be examined. There are sort of kind of legal debates to be had, and it's probably come at a terrible time, really, to be having those debates within the kind of the Premier League, simply because Project Restart is taking up obviously so much time and so much of their kind of energy and knowledge at the moment. So, it does seem to have dragged somewhat, which would raise a few alarm bells. But do you know what? I still think it will go through.
Broadcasting live across YouTube and across Newcastle Fans TV's social media, this is the Black and White Show.
I do like that voice. Like, it reminds me of someone. Rob, it's dragon, but Jonathan Cross thinks it'll go through. Do you think it's just the piracy now that's holding this up, not the human rights from Hattie's Jenners?
I think that was always the biggest hurdle, the biggest obstacle. Of course, I'm not someone on the inside, nor do I know anyone on the inside of all of this whilst it's going on. So, I couldn't really give you a firm answer. But I think in terms of all of the publicity that the human rights and the piracy elements were getting, then I think that, yes, it was always going to be the biggest hurdle that we were going to jump. And thankfully, it does seem like we have jumped that now.
Johnny, how did you find John Cross?
Lee, I'm going to have to come back in 1 minute. I can't hear you. Give us 1 second.
Well, I've watched it back, as Johnny has broadband technical problems, as per usual. With that as well, have you watched it, Rob?
Yes.
And what do you make of John Cross? Because we'll obviously have Henry Winter on name dropping as we do. National journalist talking about Newcastle, and he seems to think that it's definitely going to go through. And we haven't seen many national journalists say that. And what do you think of his comments on it?
Looks like we're about to get Johnny back. You can ask him.
I'm back.
What do you think of John Cross?
Really, really nice bloke, Lee. Really, really nice bloke. I've got a lot of time from obviously reading these articles with the Daily Mirror, and I know you're going to talk about the Henry Winter interview, but I think they're both just as good as each other because they're both chief writers of a big newspaper. And the one thing I got from John Cross is that he really wants this deal to be done, and I think he believes this deal that's going to be done. He is concerned about the piracy issue, which he did talk about a lot in the video that we had the other day. But I think what I would like to say is that he can tell he's a football fan as well. I know he doesn't support Newcastle, but he kind of wants this deal to be done because he's seen what Chelsea have done and what Manchester City have done, and I think he can see that potential in Newcastle as well, which would be fantastic, of course, from a Newcastle fan point of view.
You just good point there by Gary Scott there, Rob. I asked you a couple of weeks ago when Ramadan does come towards an end. Does that have any factor on it, or is that just a celebration period for people out in the Far East and across the world?
Well, it's a period of fasting in the Islam religion. It's a time when, on a personal, I'll start again. It's a period of fasting in the religion of Islam, and that in a devout country like Saudi Arabia for Islam, it might be frowned upon if something like a business deal was all being engineered during the period of Ramadan. After all, it's a month-long period, and so yes, it's certainly possible that that's one of the factors in delaying the announcement to this, because it's a period where one is to reflect on their own identity and personal life in the religion, and so if you're working on something luxurious like this business investment, then it doesn't really look well.
Cool. Thank you very much. Good timing. Remember, keep your WhatsApp coming through. We've had a few come through. We'll read some towards the end of this break as well. Ismaila says, we need updates, please. As you can see, he's asked us quite a few. We're not the people. We're just the fans. Kev says that he's sick of all the fuss about potential new owners. I'm sure most of these billionaire owners have a dark past. That's how they become billionaires, really. That's a bit controversial. Liam from London says, if this takeover gets blocked, which I can't see happening, then surely the country should stop selling weapons to Saudi Arabia. Gary says that he feels for it, but she's clearly using this as a platform for the publicity, and that was going back to what we're talking about a little bit earlier on with Hattie's Janice. William from Belfast, hi lads, really hoping that we get the takeover. Just wanted to say that if Big Mike is just playing games and does not sell, do you think the fans will still go to St James's Park, Johnny?
Well, they can't at the minute, and they can't for the considerable amount of time. I think it would stop a lot of people. I really do. I think you'd see something like when Rafa first left Newcastle and people just didn't come back. I think even if you do get a free season ticket, I think people will probably immediately not straight away won't come back because people haven't seen football live for a long time. But I think through time, people will just go, as I've had enough of this. But I hope we don't have to have this conversation because you have to just look at what other people are saying. We're not the experts, and I need to stress that we're not. On all our socials, we put out what other people that are in a lot better positions know. So we have to trust them, and hopefully they've got it right. And they all seem that it's so close now.
Let's get back to positivity. We've hinted on a couple of times with the Saudis, and it was the first time that we've seen a international TV company come over to St James's Park, done a massive report on St James's Park. Sam, if you can get that on screen so everyone knows, there he is. It's Will's twin, Will, who used to be on the channel. You've got the same hairstyle. Will was meant to be on tonight, but he's coming on next week, so it'll be nice coming back for Will. But he's done a report on it, and it's not a common thing that someone from the Far East company comes to Newcastle to do a report on this, Rob. I've never seen this before. I've seen Americans and stuff do that on like Newcastle and stories, but not. They seem very competent. It's unusual that.
Yeah, from the start, especially this week, it's the Saudi Arabian press that appears to be one or two steps ahead of what the English press and journalists are reporting. And so to have someone here during a lockdown as well, and so because if this takeover does go through, this is big news for Saudi Arabia. This is big news in Saudi Arabia. This is the People's Investment Fund that we're talking about. This is what their money is going towards, and so this is absolutely massive news, and so very much within the public interest within Saudi Arabia. And so for them to report on it, I say, I wouldn't read too much into it, but I do think that there's no smoke without fire with this. If this doesn't go through, then they might just be reporting on something of what might have been. But it's certainly, there's so much evidence to suggest that it is almost inevitable now. Yeah.
Jason's put a nice comment on there. We're actually going to talk about Steve Bruce very shortly. We've got a clip of Stephen Caldwell just about to come up in a second. But Stephen Caldwell talks about what it would mean. Well, you should ask the question, Johnny. What would it mean to fans? What would it mean to everyone in the city?
Oh, it would mean the world, wouldn't it? Like, this is what Newcastle fans and myself, and I'm sure all yourself, Lee and Robin, that have been asking and praying for ages. So we're going down the religious route. But look, we just want a bit of ambition and a bit of optimism and a bit of hope for the future. And Mike actually leaving the football club allows us to do that. And we're not saying we're going to win the league next season. I don't see that happening at all. But what I could see happening is maybe improvements on the pitch, improvements off the pitch, and hopefully a better communication, because you could do that in any industry, in any company. You need better communication skills if you want something to work really well, which, is the be all and end all, really, because especially with Newcastle fans, we're quite romantic about our own football club because we're so passionate about it. Give us a little bit and we'll take it to the moon and back.
Sounds like a song, that. Right, Mr. Stephen Caldwell, here he is.
Broadcasting live across YouTube and across Newcastle Fans TV's social media, this is The Black and White Show.
If it does go ahead, what, in your words, what do you think it would mean to the players, to the fans, and to people like yourself, former players?
I think it would mean a lot, first and foremost, to the city of Newcastle. I think that the fans, live and breathe the football club. They most of them go to work waiting for a Saturday so they can go and enjoy their day out and enjoy their football match. And I think that there's been a lot of times in the last 13 years of Mike Ashley's reign where it's not been quite so enjoyable. They feel like their club has not been given the right leadership that probably it deserves, and I tend to agree with that. So it would be a great moment, and it's the people that make Newcastle. We could talk about great players or the magnificent stadium or any type of ownership money that's spent. It's always the people that come and watch, the people that are on the terraces or in the seats these days. They're what make the football club. And I know it sounds like a cliche thing to say, but I absolutely believe that 100%.
Want to get something off your chest? Interact with us in the live chat and WhatsApp us your messages on 0747 649 7166. This is The Black and White Show.
And we are back. Rob, what Johnny said earlier on, what would it mean? He's had a bit of a shuffle. What he's playing, musical chairs.
Well, I can hear you now, so that's good.
I accidentally left during that clip.
What would you? How dare you? How dare you just leave? Rob, Johnny's talked about how it would feel. How would it feel for you?
Oh, it's absolutely incredible. It's what we've been craving for over a decade now, and I found out this week. In theory, I knew this beforehand, but it struck me this week that Ashley has been owner of Newcastle longer than Freddie Shepherd was. And we experienced a lot of good times under Shepherd with regular European football, and always, not every decision of his went the right way, but at least his decisions were always well-intentioned to try and take us up to that next step, especially with Sir Bobby challenging for the title. Ashley has been in this hot seat longer than Shepherd was, and we've absolutely had anything but the ambition to take us up to the next level. So it's hopefully we can sort of get that mentality with the upcoming owners. But when we say #cans, because Ashley's time at Newcastle, it has felt like an evil dictatorship. We've been going in a direction that we've not been wanting to go in, and so hopefully we will. This takeover will bring us a U-turn on that front.
Yeah, you can go all the way to Sir John Hall as well. Just going all the way back, they had ambition, and yes, they put debt into the club, but they wanted Newcastle to try and be the boys, be the best. Unfortunately, it's never happened, but that's just life of a 90s kid. No jokes intended, Johnny, because I know you're going to try and stir things there. I want to move on before we hear from more of your WhatsApps again. Please get your WhatsApps, fire them in before we take a break, which is 0747 649 7166, and we'll read them out before we move on to the second section. But Steve Bruce has had a very different tone this week, Johnny. We've seen it. He was interviewed by Sky a couple of times. Hasn't half changed his tone, mind, about this takeover. He's dropped a massive bombshell there, hasn't he?
I think it's what's called basically promoting yourself, isn't it? And basically having a job interview without actually meeting the owners, isn't it? Or the new owners. It was very much, well, I feel so confident I can improve this team. And to be fair, if you look on the results, you'd say results-wise he's improved Newcastle, but on the pitch, the football has been dire. It has been dire at times. We've come out of St James's, me, you, and Rob, and we're going, "Phew, that was a tough watch." And we might have won the game or we might have drawn the game, but all I would say is that it was very optimistic interview, wasn't it? Really, it was like, yeah, we can't wait to go out and play football and get as many results. And he talked about the 95-96 season when he was in his teens, and that would have been wonderful times. And obviously, he was winning the league for Manchester United, unfortunately, and Newcastle didn't. But he was kind of trying to reminisce, if anything. But look, at least he's trying to basically say, look, give me an opportunity, give me a chance. It's very similar to Mark Hughes at Manchester City. Claudio Ranieri at Chelsea was given his season to say, right, what can you do? Will the owners do that? I don't know. Pochettino, again, Pete Graves is quite adamant that people have been speaking to him. And he's obviously done an interview as well in which he basically said, I want to manage a club anywhere, really. I'm ready. I've re-energized. Doesn't have to be a top 6 English club, which basically said, is it a play for Newcastle? Come and get me. So who knows? I think he knows his job's at risk if his takeover happens. And I do think he knows a lot more than what maybe other people think he does. Because, of course, he's been told certain stuff because he needs to know he's the manager of the football club, or the head coach of the football club, rather.
Yeah, we've seen Alan Tate Maximum, like a tweet from another Twitter account, basically the takeover's on its way, kind of on that line. But Robert was different because with Newcastle are very much no comment. Even when we got Matt Ritchie on the channel, there's a bit of a bomb there. We were told can't talk about the takeover. Of course, Sam tries, mind, and it gets cut. But very different. He's kind of just he's basically saying to her that if it happens, it's likely it happened. We could compete. And it's very rare that anybody in Newcastle comes out and kind of drops that hint. Even now, no one else in the club has, except Steve Bruce.
Yeah, like what Johnny said, I don't blame him for trying to promote himself, because even if this money comes through, then we can afford any manager. We can afford to dig up the best ever manager that ever lived and put him in the hot seat and sort of reverse his years back into his prime. I guess Sir Alex Ferguson would fit that bill. Try and rewind his years back a bit and put him in the hot seat. That's what the money we could do. And so Bruce, he must be fearing his job, because at the end of the day, he's got home and family. He needs some income. He needs a job, and with this being his job, then I don't blame him. He might just be bricking it a bit. So I think he deserves to.
He's a wealthy man, Rob. Well, he's a wealthy man.
Yeah,
Johnny loves
more
Steve
than
Bruce.
he'll ever be. But at the same time, you gotta feel for him a bit, and I think he does merit time, because he has been getting the results to get us away from the relegation zone at least. Hey, we spent quite a bit of this season into the top half, which is more than what we could have imagined. And so, he merits some time at least to try and prove to the owners that he is the right man to take us forward. And who knows what he could do with a bit of investment. He might make us a team that plays attacking football, because, of course, we can't do that at the moment under Ashley. We can't play attractive football because the best way of rounding out results is by playing ugly. So that's my take on it, really.
Yeah, it would be lovely to see us going and flying out. Before we take a break, let's read some of your WhatsApps out. Nawaf from Saudi Arabia says, Eid Barak to Newcastle fans. I don't know if I pronounced that right, sorry. Which is the celebration, of course. Kev says, who would you like to see as manager? Give Bruce time to show what he can do with cash or different direction. Johnny, I'd like you to quickly answer that one.
As much as I'm a massive fan of Steve Bruce, as you've pointed out, Lee, if Pochettino's available and that's who the owners want to go with, you have to go with Pochettino. He's a better manager.
Yeah. Steve says, I still think Steve Bruce will be given a chance under the new ownership. He speaks really well and has never been given an opportunity at a club with money. Keep up the good work. #Cans. Steve Sully, thanks very much. Some might argue Aston Villa, he got quite a bit of money to spend in the Championship. Yeah, Brucey and his players have been told. I think Brucey's trying to promote himself, so Gary agrees with both of you two lads as well. Lawrence Taylor, who's a regular on a lot of YouTube channels of late. Bruce says being here at the start of the season would be like similar to Hughes, still at Manchester City at the start of 09-10, and then it was inevitable that he was replaced. Yeah, that's a lot of people have said that Bruce will be in the job short term, but the writing's on the wall for him, unfortunately. And the final one, Liam from London, who says, if and when this takeover happens, you can see St James's Park being full of Saudis because our potential new owners, just like Tottenham, is full of Koreans because of Sun. Yeah, I think it'll be masked out in green, and I think Johnny might be donning his new Saudi outfits as well. I think everybody will, to be honest with you.
I've got the tea towels at the ready.
Yeah, well, you've already got the jumper, so you're already in green.
Exactly, perfect, aren't
I? But they do dress in white, though, don't they? Coming up in section 2, we've obviously got Owen, and he's going to be bringing you loads and loads of stats. We're going to say goodbye to Rob and Johnny. Thank you very much, boys, for coming on, and we shall see you in a few minutes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Black and White Show. The Owen, joined by Kyle And Sam just realised me and Carla got a bit of a kick clash.
Sam laid out the challenge. He says we're going for home retro kits, so I could only go with the best one, and Owen has obviously went into the same kind of thought. But as they got it wrong in part 1, Eid Mubarak to all our Muslim followers watching this programme. But Owen, I'll let you take it away, mate.
Yeah, so this section 2, we will be looking at not just my awful hairline. We're looking at the stats of Newcastle's season so far, how we've played, defensive statistics, midfield statistics, attacking statistics, and we'll be reviewing it all in order for the Premier League's return next month, fingers crossed. So we're going to start off with how we've played this season. Obviously, the football hasn't been great compared to the results we've been getting, because some of the results we've got this season are on form. So if you have a look at this little slide I've created here, attacking statistics in terms of how we played, left side with a whopping 40%. So do you think, Kyle, that is down to our use of ASM in his natural position?
Well, a couple of stats to drop on you regarding ASM. I mean, we've only won one or two games all season without him playing, so it just shows how key he is to the squad. And even in our general play, where most of the season where we're sat so deep, which is probably something you will talk about later on, if there's how much possession we've had over the season and whatnot. But when Maximin plays, whether it's in his position or even on the other side, which he has once or twice this season, he's still a constant threat. He can get up the field. He can cause the other team a lot of problems. And I've said it a couple of times now, he's probably the signing of the summer made by any Premier League club. I think he's that good. And when we do finally get back up and running with the football and that, he's going to be a key player for the remaining 9 games, that's for sure.
Yeah, and Sam, you can see on the right-hand side there, 36%. Obviously, the left side and the right side are the 2 highest percentages on that graphic. Do you think that's down to the use of wingers overall and us playing on the counter-attack?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, by the way, you've both cheated this weekend going for that particular shirt, because that just guarantees you a win every time. So it's poor sportsmanship, in my opinion.
Mine's even got a shear on the back.
So it's just, not very sporting, but at least I tried to make a game of it this week. But anyway, in answer to your question, it is very much sort of a continuation of the tactics employed by Rafa Benitez, kind of very much defensive, absorbing the pressure from the opposition and then utilising the pace out on the wings of ASM and Almiron. So it comes as no real surprise that the main attacking threats have come down the wings and looking for that target man in the middle.
And on the right-hand side of that graphic, we have we have the average team of the season so far based on rating, I believe. As you can see there, it's the back 5, the formation we played the most games in. Do you think that system works for any player that played in it, or do you think it was just a dreadful system and we should leave it back in the archaic times, Carl?
Well, no, it's an unfair question, that, because for the defenders in that formation, we did play all right. I mean, you look at the games we played against Man City, Liverpool to an extent, we played well for the first half at Anfield. You look at the games against the likes of Chelsea, Tottenham away, where this system has worked really well. But my argument was, when you play the weaker teams at home, like your Brightons and like your Watfords and like Oxford at home, this formation doesn't work because it's not built to break a team down. And that's why we drew 0-0 all 3 of those teams. It's just a case of when this formation's played against, especially the better teams, like you found probably against the likes of Wolves away from home, where we're not expecting to get anything, and it works a treat. Like so Lascelles having very good games and using the counter attack like Alan St Maximin and Almiron to get up the field. I think it worked best in breaking a team down against West Ham away from home early on in the season, where we scored 3 goals before 60 minutes, and Zabaleta and I can't remember who was on the other side, Cresswell. I don't think they could handle Almiron and Alan St Maximin's high press on them, and they kept losing the ball, and we kept getting in behind and having loads of chances. And even though 1-3-2 on that day, you could arguably said we could have won by 5 or 6. And it's been like a couple of times this season there, Southampton being one, albeit with a different formation. But yeah, it just depends who we'll play against, whether you play a 5 at the back system or play a 4 at the back system, because against particular teams it's proven to work. For example, Southampton 4-2-3-1, that worked a treat because we had a lot of bodies in the midfield, and 5 at the back systems proved to work against Tottenham, where you take the pressure and take your chances when they come around. So they do work, but the defenders definitely profit from having the 5 at the back system in terms of your ratings, that's for sure.
And obviously, that I'd have to agree with you. That system has worked quite a bit, and you think about that second half of the season when Almiron arrived last season, and we started playing that formation with him on the left and Perez on the right. We seemed a pretty good attacking side with that formation. So whatever Bruce has done to it, I have no clue. But I'd have to agree in terms of it works for like top 6 sides and sides with powerful attacks. But if like Southampton away from home, the formation we played there, the 4-2-3-1, I think it was. I think that formation works a lot better for us. Do you agree, Sam?
Yeah, it's just as Kyle was saying, it's very opposition dependent, I think. So it does, the 4-2-3-1 is something I've been calling for since I joined the channel and before then, to be honest, because it wasn't doing us any favours, the results that Kyle touched on there and that awful home draw against Norwich. We've seen us be a bit more expansive, but the problem that you get with that, once you change formation, you go from a back 5 to a back 4, you become less compact and less solid. So, for example, this might not be a popular opinion, especially with the man on controls, but I prefer Cher in a back 5. I don't like him in a back 4.
No, I don't.
Because the back 5 allows him to get forward. Whereas with a back 4, I prefer Lascelles with Lejeune or Fernandes, because you've got 2 out-and-out solid defenders there. However, so it's making us more of an attacking threat with the back 4, but so I would expect us to play that in the next game, whenever the hell that is, at Sheffield United at home. But then for the Man City FA Cup game, again, whenever that will be, I fully expect us to revert back to that back 5.
Yeah, and that system, I think, as we mentioned before, it should only be kept for the top 6 sides. But as you said about Lejeune and Cher, personally, I think Lejeune and Cher are best suited to playing in a back 3 with the rock that is Lascelles in the middle. Because Lejeune, yes, he doesn't wander out of defence, but it allows him and Lascelles to sit as a 2, and Cher to then... He's not really a defender when he's in that back 5. He's more of he's somewhere between a DM and a centre-back, I'd say, and wanders up the field. So, and Lejeune can pick him out with passes out from the back. But obviously, if you look at the defensive stats here, Cher, as mentioned, leads the way with 37 interceptions. I mean, does that kind of say where he should be in this team? Should he be dropped at the moment? Because we're seeing Fernandes and Lascelles in the past few games. I'm not quite sure how many it is, but Fernandes and Lascelles in the past few games, they've partnered each other at the back. Should Cher be given a chance in that back 4, Carl?
It's a difficult one because, as it has been argued, he is better in a back 3, and I'm actually definitely agree with that to some extent. And in a back 2, we haven't really seen much of him. But in terms of like partnership with his fellow defenders at centre back, I'd probably put him as one of the weaker defenders in terms of the type of partnerships he has with his defenders. He's good with Lejeune and Lascelles together in a back 3, but I don't know in it too with the likes of Fernandes. Personally, I think our best 2 centre-backs, if we're going to play a 4-2-3-1 or 4 at the back system, it will be Lascelles and Clark, because they know the game back to front. And I think statistically in the Championship we're fantastic, and even in our promotion season, Clark's never let us down. So if we're going to proceed with a back 4 in the future, it wouldn't have Fabian Cher in it. I know he's a fantastic, technically gifted player, but I've argued this before. He could do a job at centre defensive midfield because his passing range is fantastic. He's proven that with his goals against the likes of Cardiff and Burnley, he can take the ball forward and he can hit it well. So for me, he might be worth a try centre midfield if we're short in that area. But as I said before, if we're playing a 4 at the back system, then Fabian Schär would not be in that for me, sadly.
Sam, I can see you shaking your head there for parts of that. Why?
Kieran Clark's not your first choice centre back. Don't get me wrong. I don't dislike him, and he's been fantastic this season. He really has. It was such a shame when he went off injured at Arsenal, because it did not go tits up when he did go off. But he's not first choice in the Prem. He's not a first choice centre back in the Premier League for a team that's trying to nudge into that top 10. The best centre-back pairing at Newcastle is Lascelles and Lejeune, period. Let's not forget the first season back in the Premier League where that was the first choice too, and they were fantastic together. The problem
I've got to disagree. I've got to.
Yeah, but the thing is, the problem is Lejeune's been injured and he's had a stinker. He wasn't given proper chance to get back to full fitness. That's why we're not talking as glowingly as we should be about Lejeune.
No, and I'll come to you in a second, Kyle, but I'd have to agree with what Sam said there, because Lejeune, if you look back at that 17-18 season when we were promoted, Lejeune was brought in the summer and he was absolutely fantastic when he wasn't injured. Games I think of, Huddersfield at home, he was brilliant. Long balls over the top. Absolute Manchester United game at home, his first game back from injury, Dubravka's debut. He was fantastic in that game as well. And I could pick out several others. And on his day, Lejeune, I'd say he's probably up there with Schär in terms of ability. Clark, obviously, he's a good defender. I think it's been mentioned amongst us lot in the group chat a lot that Clark is probably our best out-and-out defender in terms of being able to clear the ball.
So why would you drop him then if he's your best out-and-out defender?
Because I think that Lascelles can patch up what Clark has. Lascelles can fill in that role easily, but to have a balanced defence, I think you need someone like Fernandes who can bring the ball out from the back, Lejeune who can pick out a pass and bring it out from the back, and Schär who can do all of those things. So I think Clark is easily droppable and easily sellable and easily replaceable. Especially if this takeover goes through, there'll be money to spend on a defender that's 10 times better than him, that can defend and carry the ball out from the back.
I'm sorry, but I feel to recognise where Clark's gone wrong, because whenever he stepped up in any of the last 3 seasons, I've seen him have one bad game in the last 3 seasons, and that was at Notts Forest away, where he played left back and he was absolutely abysmal. But other than that, he hasn't made a single mistake, and that's what you want from a defender, someone that doesn't make mistakes. So for me, your best 2 defenders are Clark and Lascelles, based on they've got the best partnership, they concede the least amount of goals when they play together over any of the 2. I know as better footballers, you probably look towards Lejeune and Schär. I'd completely agree. They're better footballers, they're more technically gifted, they've got better passing range than Lascelles and Clark. But if you want the main job of a defender is to defend. So for me, Clark and Lascelles are the best partnership if you're playing a 4. If you're playing a back 5 or a back 3, then the argument's slightly different, because your back 3, your defenders can afford to come forward a little bit more, like Schär in games last year where he could pick out 40-yard passes no problem, and Lejeune the same when he was fit. But if you're going forward with a back 4 and we're playing the 4-2-3-1 system, I cannot look any further than Clark and Lascelles, because you've got the cover from the 2 defensive midfielders, so your defenders don't have that pressure to take the ball out and pass. They can get the ball out no problem. So for me, the best 2 defenders is Clark, who rarely makes a mistake, and Lascelles is your captain. So I wouldn't have any other 2 out of our centre defenders, that's for sure.
Sam, you tried to come in there. I'll just let you have your say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not disputing Clark's done really well. He's done fantastic. And credit to him and Steve Bruce for not selling him to Crystal Palace when they had the chance. It would have been very easy to do. And no one would have really batted an eyelid if we'd have let him go to Palace at the start of the season, would we? Really? Probably not. And But I think if you're asking him to then play 30 plus games a season, I think some of the old errors that we saw him at Villa, and I just wouldn't want him in the
Did
team.
you see the defence of Villa though? Jordan Amarvi at left back, Micah Richards, who was over the hill as Villa captain. Then he was alongside Ron Flaw, who's got a Zimmer frame. In 5 years ago, he had a Zimmer frame. I can't imagine what he's doing now. It was a really bad defence for 5 or 6 years ago. Kieran Clark can't be held responsible for that. Like in a Newcastle shirt, which is what I judge him on, he's had a handful of bad games in his time here. And for me, defensively, he's probably our best centre back. And if you want to defend out a defend and we'll keep clean sheets and things like that, Clark's been our best defender this season without a shadow of a doubt. So I wouldn't put Shea or Lejeune in for that reason alone.
So just quickly before we go back to how we've played, both of you, I want your starting back fours. So we're gonna count Willems and Rose as if they're staying on next season. So your back fours for the next season. Who's in it, Sam?
So what for the rest of this season? So there's no other
for the rest of this
window,
season,
so
or the rest of this season. Let's say, and Willems is accountable.
Okay, so right, Willems left back. Then, if we're assuming everyone's fit, then I'd have Lejeune and Lascelles in the middle, and then I'd have I'd probably have Man. See, it's such a toss-up. That right back, such a problem area because they're both so inconsistent. I do like Yedlin out of the three, but Manquillo has been playing better the past 12 months, so I'll probably just give him the edge, Manquillo.
Kyle?
Willems at left back, I think, in terms of like a natural left back, he's probably the best I've seen since Jose Enrique was at the Toon. I really like Willems. Even though he made that mistake at Arsenal, he was very solid up until he sadly got injured against Chelsea. Clark will go into centre back. I think he's so consistent as a defender. When he's at the back, I feel a lot safer than I do with the other two in a back four. That would be alongside him, Lascelles. I think, as I said before, they've got the best partnership of any of the centre backs. They've played together for years, so know each other's game inside out. And then at right back, as Sam says, it's a really tough one because all of them are awful. I've seen the comment of Lazaro at right back, but we're seeing at Arsenal how bad he is at right back. I mean, he would work very well in a wing back system. Don't get us wrong, but I just don't think playing as a right back. I think defensively he'd be torn to shreds. So I would probably go with Manquillo because he's the most consistent of the three right backs in question. It would have probably been Yedlin this time last year, but yeah, I would that's the back four I'll go for. Manquillo, Lascelles, Clark, and Willems.
Mine would be Willems, either Fernandez or Shea. I'm undecided because I think Fernandez has been brilliant when he's played this season.
Fernandez. And he's been amazing this season. It's such a problem to have. So after this takeover does go through, I wouldn't be buying a defender for a good 12 months.
No,
I agree with that completely.
Not unless one of them goes out the door.
Well,
no.
Well, I'd buy a right back, but not any centre halves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's enough on defenders now. Let's have a look at the darker side of the attack. People who are missing the mark, and not just attacking this in terms of like tackles as well, but more so fouls. So if you look at the big chances missed, Almiron, Joelinton, and Dwight Gale. Dwight Gale, I'm going to highlight him because he's played. How many starts has he had this season? Not very many. 2 starts this season, and he's missed 5 chances in 2 games. Now, is that an issue for you? Does that highlight why Dwight Gale shouldn't be starting up top for Newcastle, Kyle?
I can actually pinpoint what chances away. He had 2 setters against Man United. He had 1 against Burnley. He had about 27 against Southampton. I think it's more than 5 big chances actually on. But for me, I've seen it in quick thoughts videos after matches and chances he's missed. It's a weird one with Dwight Gale because you get the feeling in the Championship if the same pass, the same kind of chance open to him, he would put it in the back of the net, no problem. But in the Premier League, I don't know what it is with him. He just kind of convert them chances. And the worst thing is, if he'd have converted half the chances that he's had, he'd be one of our top goal scorers this season. But on those big chances that he's missed, for someone that is at his time at Newcastle, particularly in the Championship and even certain times in the Premier League, he's been able to convert sitters, and to miss the chances that he missed, it's near wonder he's made the top 3 of the most big chances missed, because some of the chances, man, unreal. Like, if you just go to particular chances in general, we didn't have a shot on target against Burnley away from home when we got beat 1-0. But I remember Joelinton, fair play to him, he doesn't do much right, but he did this right. He played the ball perfectly across the box to Dwight Gurley 6 yards out. And if you're a centre forward begging for a chance, hammering on the manager's door all week, gives a chance, I'll score you a goal. That's the chance you want. That's the kind of chance he dreamed about. And he put it wide. He didn't even hit the target. So it's a shame, because as an overall centre forward, in terms of his general play, he's probably our best that can play every week, because obviously Andy Carroll's unfit all the time. But he just kind of fit. He just doesn't have the composure to finish, and it's a shame, because his general play is probably better than Joelinton's and with a striker who's with us, Mutu. So yeah, it's a shame for Gale.
Sam, do you think the reason that Joelinton's is quite low compared to the games he's played is quite low compared to Gale's as well, because Gale gets in the right positions as a striker, whereas Joelinton doesn't? So when Joelinton gets in the right position and he misses, that's why it's lower. He doesn't get in that position enough to miss those chances. Do you reckon that's why it's so low compared to Gale's?
100%. 100%, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. How many times have the teams, I was in NFTV team, stood outside the ground at the end of a game saying how isolated Joelinton was? Too many
times.
Too many. Exactly. So he's a young striker making his way into well, he's not a young striker, he's not a striker, he's a winger, bought to be a striker. Learning his craft in the Premier League. So still do have some sympathy for him, but the kind of chances he does have, he kind of doesn't do too badly with them, considering how poor his goal scoring's been. That's the goal he did score against Spurs was brilliantly well taken finish, and the one-on-one at Oxford as well, superb. When I bet you there's lots of people watching this now thinking during that game that he was going to miss that one-on-one. So he can finish. It's just a question of positioning with him. He's not. They bought him wanting him to be Rondon, and he's not doing what Rondon did last season. He's not getting in the same positions. He can't do the same as him. So that's his problem. With Dwight Gale, it's pretty simple. It's no secret that he's a championship striker, and that's his level, unfortunately. The only reason we haven't sold him before now was for fear of getting relegated again.
All right, so keep sending your WhatsApps, guys. We're going to be checking them in about 5 minutes' time or so. So make sure you send those in. Another thing I've had on Joelinton, I just want to defend him quickly, because people say that he's not built to be a striker and all this and that, and he cannot hold the ball up and he can't do the basics. I know it's pre-season, and I know you cannot base a player off what they did in the pre-season, but if you look at what he did in the pre-season against Saint Etienne, Hibs as well. Who else did he score against? Or was it just those two? I feel like there's another one. I know he made an appearance against Preston as well, which I'm not quite sure. But in the preseason games anyway, the goals that he did score and the way he played in those preseason games, he would hold, and it came up in an interview that John Joe Shelby did the other day. He could hold the ball up. He could do what was needed as a striker. He'd be in the right position. He'd score the chances. Do you think it's merely just a confidence issue, or do you think it's something to do with the Premier League, or what do you think it is, Kyle?
I mean, for me, he's not a centre forward. He can't hold up a ball. I don't care what you say. He can't hold up a ball. I've seen it too many times over too many games this season. He can't hold up a ball. It's a weird one, because all the years we've been telling this regime to spend money, they go and spend 40 million on a Brazilian winger to be the number 9. And I feel sorry for Joel in a way, and I've spoke about this in depth a couple of months ago on the show. But you're trying to make a winger play centre forward, and it's not going to work. He's what he's really good at, and what he did really well at Hoffenheim is being a part of the build-up play, which is why when he gets the ball a lot up front, he passes the ball off and he doesn't run. He usually just builds up with the play, and that's because that's what he's used to. You know, as a winger, he plays the ball off and he doesn't run. Whereas when Rondon used to hold the ball, he used to hold it. Nobody could knock him off the ball. He used to play it out wide or play it into the middle to where the creativity was, and then he would hammer it into the box. But Joelinton, for whatever reason, just doesn't do that. Whereas you compare it to Gale, and Gale doesn't have that composure in front of goal. But it's if you put the two of them together, if you put Gale's positioning and general play with Joelinton's ability to finish and composure in front of goal, because in front of goal, Joelinton, when he gets a chance, he can actually put it away. The Oxford chance he had, the finish that Sam was on about before was a beautiful finish. He kicked the ball into the ground and over the goalkeeper's leg. And then for Tottenham with small finish as well. So he can put the ball in the net. He just doesn't get anywhere near enough chances. And that's because he's not used to being able to make something happen from nothing at all, whereas a Rondon could, or maybe even an Andy Carroll to an extent if he was fully fit. But for me, Joe, it's an argument to be had with Joelinton, but he's just, to shorten it down, he's just not a striker, but we're bought him to be one. So it's like it's a lose-lose situation for both us and him.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we'll just come on to your WhatsApps now, guys. Obviously, keep sending them in throughout the evening. This is from Unknown. If Steve Bruce stays, maybe he could try and get us Jack Grealish and Tammy Abraham, because he was on loan at Villa last season. Personally, I think that Tammy Abraham is Chelsea's starting striker now. I can see him staying at Chelsea. Jack Grealish, we'll see what happens with him. Kyle, what do you think of those two players that have been mentioned there?
Well, Tammy Abraham turned Wood down earlier on in his career. He got a chance to either come to us or go to Swansea, and he turned us down, apparently because of the nightlife or whatever it may be. But he is a good striker. He's proven in that Chelsea team he's prolific. He did in the Villa team in the Championship, ironically under Steve Bruce as well. So he is a decent striker, but Chelsea will want a lot of money for him because he's 22, 23. He's their striker for the next. He could be their striker for the next 8 to 10 years. So I would write Tammy Abraham off quite quickly. As for Jack Grealish, got to be honest, I wouldn't take him. Not because of his footballing ability. It's just he's a liability off the field. You mean he's supposed to be Villa's captain and things like that, and he's going out partying during the virus and like getting hammered on holiday and things like that. He's not the type of player that off the field is going to do any favours. Do you know what I mean? So for me, I'd probably pass on Jack Grealish because of that. He is a good footballer though, and he has the potential to grow into a top player. But yeah, he is a bit of a liability in that regard, sadly.
Yeah. So next question is sent in by Lawrence Taylor. Would you believe suggestions that we spent 40 million on Joelinton despite knowing he wasn't worth that much and was a winger, or that we spent less than that on him and said it was 40 million to ease the discontent for Rafa leaving? Sam, I'll let you answer that one.
Possibly. I'd be kind of surprised if that was the case. At the end of the day, there's always going to be discontent with Rafa leaving. It doesn't matter how much a player signs for. The Rafa issue is a more longer, drawn out, more emotional issue than the price tag of a player, because of course 6 months previous we broke the transfer record with Almiron anyway. I think with Joelinton as well, it's so obvious he's a confidence player. So obvious. He got that goal against Oxford in the next Premier League game against Chelsea. That first half, he was so much brighter. And of course, he had that header that hit the bar as well. But then a couple of missed chances, then his head dropped.
Yeah, and I think with Joelinton, it's definitely not the fact that he is that we've not lied about the price tag, because I remember when he signed, Hoffenheim had announced that he'd left for a price tag of 40 million. So another club's not going to lie to benefit Mike Ashley. I think it's merely that they've offered 40 million to make it look like it's a big transfer. We're trying to bring in this brand new number 9, and it's just not. They haven't done the proper scouting on him. We'll move back to the attacking stats again now. Obviously, John Joe Shelby leads the way with 5 goals this season, which I think has been a long time coming, personally. Obviously, ever since he signed for Newcastle, he's. I mean, the Championship season is slightly different, but in the Premier League, the 2 seasons prior to this season, he's only got 2 goals in those 2 seasons, 1 goal for each season. Do you think, Sam, that this season has been the season that he's really stepped up to the mark, or do you think it's Steve Bruce that has put the highlight on Shelby and almost built a team around him?
When Shelby's been fit, yeah, I mean, credit does have to go to Steve Bruce, because he was out the door. If Rafa had have stayed, he would have gone. No doubt about it. He would have gone. The development of Sean Longstaff and Isaac Hayden would have taken priority, as it did last season, over John Joe. He's been superb when he's been fit this season. He's such an easy player to criticise. Kyle, I can sort you out with a cigar if need be. John Joe's been superb. And I think one of the moments of the season for me was that goal against Sheffield United. Such an intelligent move, because 99% of players would have seen the flag and stopped playing, like the Sheffield United defence did. But for him to know the rules, know the VAR, would check it, to bury the goal despite players around him stopping, it's a great bit of ingenuity, and he's been absolutely fantastic. He scored all types of goals. He even scored a header against Southampton. Header for John Joe,
which was a brilliant bullet header, might I just say, assisted by Andy Carroll. And I saw John Joe say himself, it's a bit of a mouthful, that he should be doing that for Andy Carroll. But obviously, going to the type of crosses, passes type thing, assists, Christian Atsu and Andy Carroll are our 2 most creative players in terms of assists this season. Kyle, please give me your opinion on this. I know Paul would love to put his opinion on this because it involves Christian Atsu. But
Christian Atsu, I'm speechless. He's top assist, to be honest. I'm not surprised by Carroll, because it was like a substitute appearance where he knocked on Almiron's goal. I think he had one for Fernandez as well against Southampton. So Andy Carroll doesn't particularly surprise us, but to try and be told by fact that Christian Atsu is the most creative midfielder this season, it kind of bewilders us, because for the vast majority of the season he's been he's been awful. So I really don't know how to sum it up. He had 1 good performance against Tottenham where he set up the winner for Joelinton, but other than that, he's been bang average. To be fair, actually, I remember another one of his assists. I think it was against Liverpool for Willems's Thunderbolt. It was more of a layoff than an assist. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes it can be deceiving, and I think in this case with Christian Atsu, although he's a lovely lad and he's okay on FIFA, as we've seen with the tournaments. In terms of a creative midfielder, no, definitely not.
Just to add, the 3rd assist that we've missed out there was the assist for John Joe Shelby's goal, funnily enough, against Manchester City.
That was a layoff as well. Come on,
yeah,
man,
but it counts as an assist according to the official Premier League statistics. This is. So moving on to shots, Miguel Almiron has the most amount of shots this season. Joelinton with just 1 shot less than him.
He has the most goals as well.
And that's what I was just about to come on to. Miguel Almiron has the most goals out of that front 3 this season. Do you think that's to do with the amount of shots he takes, or what do you think that is? Because it bewilders me that Almiron has the most amount of shots, because we don't pass through him. We don't use him so much as we use Saint-Maximin, and I never see Saint-Maximin setting up Almiron. It's usually Joelinton or one of the midfielders, or setting up himself, because he does that quite a bit. It bewilders me that Almiron takes the most amount of shots. Sam, why do you think that is? Do you think that is because of his pace, being able to bear down on goal? What do you think makes him have the most amount of shots?
Couple of things, really. The fact that he's pretty much been fit for every game this season, where St Maximin hasn't been. And of course, Almiron didn't get his first goal until the 23rd of December. It was a game just before Christmas against Palace.
Yeah.
So you had August, September, October, November, and the start of December, where he was having plenty of chances every game, and they just weren't going for him at all. That Bournemouth game we were all at springs to mind. It was just he just went through that whole big phase of guy's never going to score. So it got to a point where he was just hitting and hoping. So that probably accounts for a fair chunk of that. But he has got pace and work rate, which is two things I massively like in players. I think for all his flaws, and he's not scored as many goals and he's not assisted as much as we'd like to, I still think he's been fantastic.
Yeah, and I think with Almiron, thank God he finally has scored, because I think the more that, just like Joelinton, he's a confidence player, and the longer that goes on, the less likely he's to score. And he was quite lucky to get that chance against Palace. I think 6 yards out, I think it was, or maybe just a bit further back on the volley from Carroll's header down. Wasn't credited for the assist point, but he was quite lucky to get that goal in the end. Final section I'm going to touch on before I go back to how we've played, because I kind of missed a few bits out from that earlier on. So passes, touches, and midfield stats. Now, Sam, I had a little chat with you earlier on this one. Martin Dubravka has the most amount of passes this season. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because the amount of time we spend at the back? Do you think it's to do with goal kicks? Why do you think he has the most amount of passes?
I think it tells you all you need to know about where we spend most of the game. It's in our own third, isn't it? It did surprise me, that one. I have to be honest. I mean, if this was in some kind of quiz scenario, which I'm fairly adept at, I would have probably took a guess at a midfielder like an Isaac Hayden or something like that, or a centre-back. It just goes to show how much Dubravka has mattered this season in every sense. He's pretty much done it all from them stats. He's kept us in how many games this season? He's won us so many points single-handedly. It's just such an obvious choice that he is our player of the season this season, without any shadow of a doubt. But yeah, it is pretty much down to where we spend the most of the game, which at the moment with our possession stats, which are famously low, it just tells you all you need to know about how much time is spent defending our own area.
Yeah, and Kyle, as you can see on that list, Joelinton is third with 670 passes overall. Do you think that shows where Joelinton is going wrong in terms of him dropping too deep and being that playmaker, rather than, I know we've discussed this already, that he might not be a striker, but rather than playing that role that he is deployed in, that is striker?
Well, like I touched on before, mate, it's his style of play where he wants to build up the play. So it doesn't surprise us that passing wise he is there, because he does play so deep, looking to bring other players in, but he doesn't follow on to the next phase, which is obviously running into the box and trying to cause the defenders to move for you, so it can then create space and etc. But yeah, it doesn't surprise us at all. He's there. What doesn't surprise us as well, which you'll probably come on to in a minute, is the amount of times he's been dispossessed. But yeah, it doesn't surprise us at all with Joelinton and he's passing.
Yeah, I'm just going to comment there as well, saying Almiron would get more goals if he was playing in the number 10. Slightly change that around a bit. Do you think Joelinton would be a better player if he was playing in that 10? Because I've seen a lot of people say that he can play on the wing, but I've heard a lot of people also say that he's played 10 before, which I seem to remember seeing when he played at Hoffenheim. I don't know whether I'm correct here. Rob will probably have the answer to this because he loves watching the Bundesliga.
I suppose Hoffenheim, didn't he?
Yeah. I'm going to ask this to Sam. Do you think that he would be better off in a position like a 10 where he can play in that midfield, where he's obviously enjoying because he's got 670 passes and third on that list?
I absolutely agree. and not just with Lee loving Bundesliga too. I absolutely agree. I would give Joe Linton a go at number 10 because he's not a winger for me either, to be honest. I think he would be a good number 10 because I think he does the frame of the guy. He's not pacey enough to be a winger for how we play. He's not an Almiron, he's not an ASM, he's nowhere near pacey enough and has that trickery about it. A number 10, I think, would suit him because he could be a kind of a playmaker, but he has the physical frame to learn how to hold the ball up and play people in. Them stats there with the amount of passes, that does suggest to me he can hold the ball up and play people in. He's just not getting in the right positions further up in the field. And dispossessed, I'd expect a striker, or the person playing as the striker, I'd expect him to be top of the dispossessed stats. But I would 100% like to see him as a number 10 playing with a proper striker that he can play off.
Yeah, and Kyle, obviously Sam wants to play Joe Linton and number 10 from there. Almiron, what do you then do with him? Do you continue playing him on the left, or is that unfair to drop Almiron out of his best position where he has provided? I think every time he's scored, he's been playing in the 10. If I'm correct, I think that's the stat. Do you think it would be harsh to allow Joe Linton to play in the 10 and then push Almiron into a position where he's less comfortable?
Well, if I was to compare the two for number 10, I would definitely put Almiron there because that's what he is. He's an attacking midfielder, whereas Joe Linton, we don't know what he is as of yet. There's a footballer there. We just need to find the right system in that for him. But I completely agree with what Sam said in terms of the way he plays and things like that. And what I've said, the way he tries to build up play instead of running into the box, that's more suited to a centre attacking midfielder type of role than it is a centre forward role. So I think he'd definitely be a better player at centre attacking midfield. I just don't know if he would be better than Almiron. I suppose if we picked up an injury to a Richie or picked up an injury to Atsu or someone who plays on one of the flanks, then he maybe could slot in centre attacking midfield while Almiron goes back out wide, because it would be dangerous on the counter attack with the pace that ASM and Almiron have on the flanks, and then the ability Jolton has to build up the play. It is quite dangerous, so it is something you could go for. But me personally, I would rather play Richie on one of the flanks than ASM and then Almiron through the 10. But if an injury was to happen, it's definitely something I would look to attempt for sure.
Right. So obviously that second lot of stats there is dispossessed. Sam just touched on it earlier on. Joe Linton, he expects Joe Linton to be dispossessed the most because he is the striker. But interesting that the whole front three is on there. Alain Saint-Maximin, you can see why he's a direct threat. I think if he played the amount of games that Joe Linton has this season, he'd probably be top of that list because he is our direct threat. And the amount of times he gets past players, but he also, because he's our direct threat, gets targeted a little bit, Kyle. So do you think that it's a negative thing that those players have been dispossessed the most, or do you think it's just down to where they play?
It's probably a mixture of both, to be honest, because the way Miggy plays and the way ASM plays, with how direct they are going to lose the ball. It's just they've got that fearlessness, and I think that's what us fans like about them too as wingers. But for Jolton to be top of the pile, for me, it just shows the frustration that he has, because when he is up front, he is having to win. He is having to win like scraps all of the time, and more often than not, he is losing the battle against physical defenders like he had against Arsenal. Like he's had so many times this season where he hasn't been able to overcome the physical problems, which is what Sam touched on before. He's got more of a build for a centre attacking midfielder like a Gylfi Sigurdsson. I mean, no way comparing the two, but it shows that it shows in Sigurdsson that type of frame can play in that position. But for me, I think Jolton needs to be kept as far away from the striker position as humanly possible. The amount of times he loses the ball, his inability to build up play from a striker and make something happen as a striker, I wouldn't play him there at all. But as said before, and as Sam said, there is a player in there for sure. And I think if you played him a bit deeper in centre attacking midfield, he would lose the ball a lot less. Put it that way.
Yeah, I'd have to completely agree. We'll just go back to how we've played because I missed a bit out earlier on. So as you can see down there on the bottom left, we've got goals, the type of effect, the type of goal, and the effect that they have in percentage. So from open play and set pieces, they've equally got 12 goals with a 48% effectiveness. Now, do you think that set pieces have been our way of scoring goals this season, Sam, or do you think it's just pot luck that we've just got so many goals from that way of scoring?
No, I definitely think it's something that's been worked on extensively. You look at that West Ham game away earlier on this season. All of them 3 goals came from set pieces, and the first 2 in particular were definitely off the training ground. It just goes to show. What does actually surprise me on that briefly is how poor the counter-attack stats is. I'm assuming that one is Matty Longstaff's against Man United, but it just goes to show how poor we've been from open play. And I'm not one for XG stats and this, that, and the other, but you can't. What doesn't speak doesn't lie, and it's just quite poor that so few goals have been scored from open play. It just stacks up to what we've said all season with how isolated Joe Linton's been and the chances that Dwight Gale's missed when he's been in the team.
Kyle, do you think that it's a poor thing to have the amount of goals you got from open play equal to the amount of goals you've got set pieces? Do you think it should at least be double? The amount of goals you score from open play should at least be double to what you're getting from set pieces, or what do you think? Do you think it should be more?
To be fair, usually yes, but to be fair, the way we set up was to nick goals from set pieces early on in the season. When we were playing this wing-back system, it was heavily reliant on winning some set pieces and making the most of them. Like, you look at the game against West Ham in particular, where we hit them on the break and we won the free kicks in the necessary positions to score from those free kicks. Now, one thing Steve Bruce has done really well is, from an attacking point of view, we're a lot more effective on set pieces than we were under Rafa. That's for sure. But in open play, we've kind of fell by the wayside in a way, because if you remember towards the back end of last season, scoring 4 against Fulham, beating Leicester away from home, hammering Huddersfield, teams like that. Actually, no, was it Huddersfield? I think it was. I'm not sure. Anyway, on the counter attack in open play, we're a lot more direct and hurt teams a lot more. The likes of Southampton when Perez scored a hat trick, they couldn't handle when open play. Whereas teams now, I think they've just got 2 aims. If they mark Maximin out of the game and Mark Almiron out of the game, where's the goals going to come from for us? Barring a set piece. If they work on the set pieces defensively, isolate Maximin and Almiron, they're going to get at least a point off it. Do you know what I mean? So we need to sort out the open play problem. In the game against Southampton, as long ago as it was, we did seem to sort that out a bit and have a lot more chances in open play. But we're players are that used to defending all game. When the goal is in front of them to score it, they get shell-shocked a bit and they didn't score, when only ended up scoring 1 from a Southampton defender mistake towards the end. But yeah, the
McCarthy did have an absolute worldie in that game though for Southampton, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, for sure. But the open play situation needs to be definitely sorted out. Whether it's when we come back or next season, it needs to be sorted out. Otherwise, we're never going to be any more than a mid-table side. So hopefully a takeover happens and we'll bring some good players in.
Yeah. And just touching on that Southampton game quickly, it's something I've been thinking about. It's popped into my mind the other day, and I've never really stopped thinking about it since. That chance that Hayden had on the edge of the box. I don't know whether you remember that volley. It came from about 50 meters in the air. It dropped to him. He took it on the direct volley, and it was deflected towards McCarthy, I think it was. If it wasn't deflected, it was going in the side netting. if I remember correctly, if that had gone in, obviously Perez probably wouldn't have scored his hat trick. But if that had gone in, that would have been an absolute wonder goal, surely.
Oh, in the reverse, I thought you were on about the last game that will play against Southampton. I'm thinking,
No.
I remember it. Would have been a raker, like, wouldn't it? But
yeah.
Aye.
Yeah, so that's a couple of things before we wrap up. I'll just check your WhatsApps before I finish up here. So it gives about 5 minutes time. Go back to that how we played slide. In fact, no, WhatsApps are here. So what do we have? We have one from Alan here. Gale is a championship player, needs 4 or 5 attempts in the Premier League to score. Sam, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't dislike the guy at all because he was a major part of winning the championship. But we've seen plenty of players like him in the past, and we'll see him again in the future. Awesome in the championship, can't quite cut it in the Prem.
Yeah, and I'd have to agree with what you said there, Sam. If taken over, will there be another 30 million more Newcastle fans? Kyle, I'll let you answer this one. I'm sure it's got to be something like that. Kyle, what do you think?
Another 30 million. I mean, I'm not telepathic, so I don't know exact numbers. But if we do get taken over, I think a lot of fans of the plastic variety will be wanting to jump on the horse. But obviously, there'll be Saudi Arabians wanting to be interested in their country's investment, which could be Newcastle United, and more the merrier. Aid Marabak to all. But yeah, as long as we don't end up with any plastics, that's fine by me. I don't want to have a reputation like Man City where the team turn up and things like that. Although I'm not worried about that at all. That'll not happen with Newcastle. At least I don't think it will.
Now, I've just read this question. It's a lovely question, may I just say. How many wonder goals have we seen over the last few years from our forwards? I watched Cisse or Bar clips, and I feel like it's been that long. I think you just have to look. Well, yes, but I think you just look back at last season with Rondon. There weren't exactly wonder goals, but there were some great goals that he scored. Perez as well, with like the chip over Schmeichel from the season before and all sorts like that. Rondon, I think of the volley against Liverpool from the corner.
Yeah, but it's not a wonder goal, is it?
Okay, maybe not a wonder goal, but there's still some great goals scored.
Rondon scored some beautiful goals, but
Shares or Riches at Bournemouth, but they're not strikers, are they? But
yeah, those are I think that's what he means by wonder goals, possibly. But there have been some great goals scored in defence of the few forwards that we have had since Cisse and Bar. Next question comes in. Do you think the club should be concerned about the development of players out on loan like Elias Sorensen not being given sufficient game time at Blackpool and Carlisle? What do you think the club can do to ensure that young players go on to develop? Sam, I'll let you answer that.
It's a tricky one because I can't really see Sorensen breaking into the first team anytime soon. I mean, in a broader sense of the argument, what they can do initially is to improve the facilities that they're training in and honing their craft in. Loan deals could really be picked better because they haven't really worked out for a lot of the players that we've shipped out on loan. I just worry that there's some real. I don't think Sorensen is the biggest talent we've got in that under 23s. I'd rather prefer a Tom Allen or a Yannick Touré, but I would. It depends what the new owners, if it happens, want to do. But to be honest, with the Sorensen point, I can't see him really threatening the first team anytime soon.
I think with Sorensen, his chance for the first team, there's been so many chances under Rafa, I think, with the Cups especially. When he went through that period in last season of scoring, I think it was like 20 goals before Christmas or something stupid like that, he should have been kept along for the third round of the FA Cup and been allowed to start or at least make an appearance off the bench. And I think now he's been loaned out a couple of times and his chances have been wasted. I think he's missed his window of opportunity to be involved in that first team, which is unfortunate because I would have loved to have seen a young striker, someone who's moved from Norway, I believe it was, and moved to Newcastle and actually scored goals for the under-23s in the prolific way that he did. I think it's unfortunate for him. Hopefully you don't make the same mistake with the likes of Yannick Touré as well. But that is it for section 3. Thank you very much, guys, for watching section 3. Section 2. Please come back for section 3. Lee will be talking about the Ashley era, as it is the 13th anniversary today, which is a bit of a negative one when you think about it. Not really an anniversary. But yeah, that's it for section 2. I'll see you guys in section 3.
You're the night sky trying to make me see your stars, but the dark gets so lonely. Now I see violet, I can feel silence, and the dark's all that I see. When your stars are burnt out and your heart makes no sound, I'll find violet in your eyes. You'll always be my night sky. You'll always be my night sky. Be my night sky. You'll always be my night sky. You're the night sky hiding behind dark gray clouds. I can't figure you out now. I see all blue. There is so much cold in you, and the silence is so loud when you go. I just stay dancing with my shadow all day. Watch the time. I can't find the point where our two paths align. But you're the night sky, I'm trying to see your stars, but I always fear the dark. Now I see violet, I can feel your silence. You always feel so far when your stars are burnt out and your heart makes no sound. I'll find violet in your eyes. You'll always be my night sky. You'll always be my night sky. Be my night sky. You'll always be my night sky. Be my night sky. You'll always be my night sky.
I kind of hear Lee.
Yeah, unmute your microphone.
That would help, wouldn't it? I was trying to say that we're all celebrating and singing in the background there. I got that excited, I forgot to unmute myself. Hello, everybody. I am back for part 3. It's not going to be positive. Talking about Mike Ashley for 13 years. Right, get your comments in because I'm sure you'll have your opinion. And please make him feel strong as much as YouTube allows it. Right, Sam, when I say dead fire, dead quick, give me some names, or not names, memories of Mike Ashley dead quick. Like, instantly go to your head. What he's done at the club.
2 relegations, Joe Kinnear, 9 bar, Sports Direct, ruining the soul of the stadium, the club. It's just sad.
One after another. Owen, top of your head. Go.
Jonas Gutierrez not letting Colaccini leave, even though he wanted to. Sports director Rena. A lot of these will be ones that Sam said. The 9 bar again being changed from Shearer's bar to 9 bar. Not allowing Shearer's statue to be built at the front of St James's Park where it can be seen, having to push it outside. The treatment of Alan Shearer, once he had managed and then falling out with him and not allowing him to be an ambassador of the club. Communication is a massive thing as well. We talked about it last week, I believe it was, or the week before. Communication with the fans has been dreadful. Joe Kinnear, Alan Pardew's 8-year contract, those sort of things.
Yeah, there's loads. Yeah, there's loads that we're going to try and rattle through. And what we're going to come up with is me, Sam, and Owen are going to try and come up with our top 5 worst. I don't know what they've picked. They don't know what I've picked. It'll be interesting. We'll hear from Henry Winter in a second, but please get your WhatsApp coming in 0747 649 7166. You can see it at the bottom, just going along the way there. Newcastle Fans TV leading the way where everybody else copies. Right, we're going to hear from Mr. Henry Winter. Sam had the pleasure of interviewing him. This is what he said about Mike Ashley.
You're watching the Black and White Show with Newcastle Fans TV.
You truly are more than a club. This is about a community. This is about an identity. I mean, I spent 1.5 years writing a book with Michael Carrick and spent some time with his parents up in Newcastle, and they very much educated me even more in the way of, Newcastle. I mean, things like, I can remember Alan Shearer's testimonial. I mean, not many players have that sort of testimonial and that sort of emotional engagement with an individual, what Alan represents. And I think that Mike Ashley didn't represent that. I know people try to see this as almost a north-south thing, and it was, the Cockney who came up and, get him out of our club. But bad owners come from everywhere. Bad owners can come from the other side of the world, or they can come from down the road. But I think what Mike Ashley, for someone who's such a brilliant businessman, as we've seen in the high street and other walks of life, he just didn't get Newcastle. He didn't get Newcastle United fans. He didn't understand that cups matter. I mean, people sometimes depict Newcastle United fans as being these big dreamers. I've actually found I've got a lot of mates who are Newcastle United fans in the industry, and just sort of people you sort of meet along the way. And I think pretty down to earth. You're not expecting to win the Champions League.
Broadcasting live across YouTube and across Newcastle Fans TV's social media, this is the Black and White Show.
I'm sure I've heard that voice before. I really, really have. Are you lads, have you heard of that voice before? Sounds familiar. Doesn't sound like we usual trailers or nothing that. Interesting that. Yeah, so fire in your WhatsApp. We'll read them out later. 0747 649 7166. And that was Henry Winter. Sam, before we talk a little bit in depth about Mike Ashley, how did you find Henry Winter in general?
Henry Winter on Newcastle Fans TV. Imagine that. Simply one of the best half an hours of my life. That's what she says. But it was just fantastic to talk to someone as knowledgeable and as eloquent as Henry Winter, because the guy just gets it. He says what we're all thinking, but puts it in a much more sensible kind of perfect way. It's just, we were only supposed to have 10 minutes with him, but we chatted for half an hour, and it would have been longer had my mic not failed once I stopped recording. But it was absolutely amazing, and thanks for passing that on to me.
Yeah, and I've got a few contacts, haven't I? I can work a few magic, just like yourself. Everyone on this, all three, we've managed to get a few people on the channel, which is fantastic. Right, okay, so Henry Winter was saying that it was the first time really that an outsider on the channel proper got one. Like really got one. Yes, he's in the industry and you've seen loads happen throughout the years in Newcastle, but it was really nice watch just to see Henry Winter talk so positive about Newcastle. And unfortunately, lads, we're going to have to talk a bit of negativity, because what I'm going to put on screen is all the wrongdoings what Mike Ashley has done. So Squint your eyes as best that you possibly can if you are watching on mobile. It's in small writing. I'll just take the ticker off at the bottom so you can see that. I mean, there's endless ones there. I mean, first of all, Owen, were you too young to remember Kevin Keegan coming in?
Yes, just about. Like, it's when I started remembering things. Like, I can remember certain things from that era, but I obviously don't know exactly. I know exactly what went on, but at that time, I was unaware as to what the impact it had on Newcastle and the impact the relationship we had with Keegan at that time. I was unaware. Obviously, I'm aware now. What a big cock up by Mike Ashley, and I can say that word now because we're not on the radio.
Fucking dickhead, what he is.
Yes, yeah.
No longer, this show's no longer PG, everybody. We've got a bit of a license now to say what we want. Fucking knobhead. So, Sam, joking here, obviously, that was a bit of a joke twice. But the sacking of Chris Hughton hurt a little bit, didn't it? That was unjustified.
I remember being absolutely livid about that at the time. Not a couple months previous, we were celebrating a 5-1 derby win and then a 1-0 win at the Emirates. And then, yes, the form had kind of gone down the pan slightly, but Chris Hughton, for all intents and purposes, he saved Newcastle United, getting us out of the Championship, sustaining us back in the Premier League. He gave us some fantastic days. And for him to just be shown no loyalty, no sense of common decency for such kind of profound individual.
Done a really good job, got one up. And remember, you had to sell, you had to get rid of Damien Duffs, Michael Owen. Yeah, who else is there? Vidukas, there was Martins.
Saved us. Got rid of all of that dead wood, and there was lots of it. And he just kind of, along with that core of that dressing room that was there at the time, he completely saved Newcastle United.
You've done a fabulous job, and he's still to this day speaks well of the club, and that's a credit to the man that he is. Andy Carroll sale for 35 million on deadline day, and then we brought in free agent Shevsky Kuchu. I mean, I haven't even got the relegations on this list, and there's so many that people will probably now start thinking about. Allowing Rafa Benitez was a big one, though, wasn't it, Owen? He walked out when we were last year, and we didn't know where we were going to go as a club. And obviously seeing the people protesting and the boycotts, and that was a big thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, can I just say this type of list is something that makes me want to throw my toaster in the bath. It's quite depressing, to be honest. If you look at all the I mean, there's more.
What do you put in the toaster?
Does it have to be anything in the toaster? It just has to be switched on and in the bath.
What do you put in the toaster?
Bread.
Oh, you got it. Sorry, carry on, mate. You got it. Well done.
Yeah, if you look at that list, there is way more than 13 things on that list. That's more than one a year. More than one a year cock-ups that he's made in the time that he's been here. Obviously, sorry, which one were you talking about? I've gone off on a little landslide here.
Benitez leaving. Yes,
Benitez, obviously. I think that sort of epitomised Ashley's reign at Newcastle. It's summed up how much of a mug he's made himself look while being the owner, to allowing Rafa to leave, arguably our best manager in this stint that Ashley's been here. And the things that Rafa did. Rafa is quite similar to Hughton in a way, I think. Saved Newcastle, nearly kept us up, saved Newcastle in the Championship, maybe didn't deserve to win it, but did ultimately win it in the end. And then making us finish in 10th. The bargain buys, you think of Fabian Schär off the top of my head, and Dubravka as well. Like those two for individually both under 4 million is absolute bargains. Those sort of things. How could you allow that man to leave? Like, I think Rafa is. I think it was Rafa's decision at the end of the day, because he realised that Ashley wasn't going to budge on money and all sorts. But the fact that Ashley wasn't willing to budge and allow Rafa to have a little bit more money and a little bit more freedom just really shows what type of a man Mike Ashley is.
Yeah, there's loads. I mean, there's some on that list that we can't think at the top of our heads. There's another one, the season ticket. Neil says the club shop obviously being used as a Sports Direct shop. The signing of Cisco, from the YouTube highlights, and obviously there's so many that we can go on. But I think this one will probably score pretty high amongst you. Is the treatment of Jonas Gutierrez, Sam? It was disgraceful, that wasn't it?
Yeah, disgusting. I mean, people kind of slightly forget that obviously Gutierrez was out of favour at the time. He'd been sent on loan to Norwich and so on and so forth, but that gives zero excuse of how that man was treated. And for all the years' service he put in to Newcastle, could have easily left when we went down, stuck with us through thick and thin, and for him, it's just absolutely mortifying how it was allowed to happen. It was an absolute disgrace. Absolute disgrace.
It was, and obviously you came back, and obviously seeing that reception you got at Old Trafford, wasn't it? Away, and even credit to the Manchester United fans, they were actually applauding him as well. And he came back, and he was more of a squad player because he could play centre midfield, he could play left. He was even used at left wing back, left back. Even Argentina played him at right wing back. Maradona was his first choice for Argentina's 11. And then obviously the court case, after he's done all the celebration, which is brilliant scenes, but was more, for me, that we stayed up at that moment was about him. For me, that was him. That was him rejoicing. And that was basically him saying, fuck you, Mike Ashley, when he was doing all of that.
Yeah.
And that was like, fuck you, this is what you've done. I'm signing off in style. The way he got treated then, and it was him and not just Gutierrez, Ryan Taylor over a telephone call. And I'm not blaming John Carver because of that, because John Carver has been made to ring them. So it's the hierarchy that have done it, and the treatment. And obviously Gutierrez won his case, and rightly so. And he's not the only one. We're talking about, the communication as well. Sam, so I'll come back to you again because Owen's a little bit younger, but the treatment of Kevin Keegan, the Dennis Wise carry on, and Keegan, of course, won his case as well. And it's like a case of deja vu, isn't it?
It's just a long line of club legends and club icons that were so poorly treated. Just treated like a number, an employee, a number on the roster sheet, as opposed to human beings. I mean, Kevin Keegan should have a stand or a statue or something of him at St James's Park. I was actually there the night he was brought back. It was the day we were playing Stoke in an FA Cup replay, and the kickoff was put back 15 minutes to allow everyone to get in, and then he kind of walked in the stadium, I think about 15 minutes after kickoff, and the place was just absolutely alive and buzzing, and you thought, oh, the good times are going to come back. But I mean, they did for a couple of months, but it's just a shame how they can treat people so poorly.
Yeah, and then another one's Furlow. I haven't even got on that list as well. You could talk about as well. Just bring up again a few of these as well. I'll just take that ticker back off again because you can't see at the bottom for people that may be joining. Of course, the treatment of Gutierrez, the John Carver appointment, the big one, I'm sure that'll score pretty high with you. In the stadium name change to Sports Direct Arena. And what they said as well, it was Lambias who came out and said this, is that they're doing it to drive revenue and advertisement at St James's Park. I didn't buy that, mate. It was more of a case is Mike Ashley wants to promote his own company. And obviously we've seen that we got laughed at by other fans and all that. So don't get me wrong, a lot of other fans sympathise with her, but we got the piss took out with big time, not just by other fans, by Mike Ashley and you would say him, all down to him and his merrymen at the time. It was just, I remember that, and I was fucking furious at that time. It was like a knife going in your heart. It really was. You kind of change, and that's one thing I don't want the new owners to do, is change that name. I think that's something that might upset me. It will upset me and other fans. What was your general thoughts when they changed that? You must have been...
Well, my first game was Bolton at home when Ben Arthur scored that brilliant goal. And obviously with the age I was at that point, I didn't really understand. I wasn't really looking at the politics of the club and what was being changed and whatnot. So I was unaware before I knew I was going to that game that the name had been changed from St James's Park to Sports Direct Arena. So we're driving to Newcastle. We're just about to pull up. My dad hands me my ticket, surprises me. Oh, look, going to your first game. I read the ticket, it says Sports Direct Arena on it. It's like, I thought it was called St James's Park. My dad then tells me it's been changed to Sports Direct Arena. And I can't say gutted because I didn't fully understand the effect it had, but I was a little bit miffed because I was like, but that's St James's Park. Like, I've known this to be St James's Park for the time I've supported Newcastle so far. So how has it changed? So yeah, that's a massive thing. And like you said, Lee, I wouldn't want it to be changed either. I think many fans wouldn't want it to be changed. I think some fans would trade it in for lots of money and success, but I think history, St James's Park is part of the history, and that name is part of the history of the club. And you're basically selling away history by changing it. And some people believe, and as you said, Lambias said that they were trying to get revenue into the club and stuff. What a load of bullshit. What a load of bullshit. Ashley, the reason those signs are still up is because he is trying to get world advertisement of his business. And whether it works or not, we'll never know. But there's no way that revenue streams come from Sports Direct. No way.
You've been depressed for the last 13 years?
I'm not sure I knew what depression was 13 years ago, but come to think of it, but the longer and the more mature I've got as I've grown up as a Newcastle fan, the more down it gets you, seeing all these negative things, seeing just all the rubbish that comes out in the media. It's at least once a month you see something negative come out about Mike Ashley or Newcastle United. And as you get to understand more, it does sort of affect you personally, because Newcastle is my life pretty much. Like, I look forward to a weekend. I forget about the weekdays. I do what I have to do, and then on the weekend, I'm just solely a Newcastle fan. I live for that Saturday afternoon at 3:00, and it's depressing to see such absolute. I just have no words for it. Just absolutely ridiculous stuff going on. It really gets on my tits.
A shit show.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll go through these because we've got a few, haven't we? We've obviously got the Alan Pardew's 8-year contract, and how was he not sacked after headbutting David Myler? If that was me doing that, if that was Sam doing it, criminal record, and we wouldn't probably get a job for a couple of years. Mental. Who was behind the purchase of Joe Linton? Of course, we're FA Cup record since Ashley, except from this season. Shearer's Bar being renamed. The Steve McLaren appointment, but not even that. Put him on the board. Putting a manager on the board. The feeling of previous takeovers. The land sold behind the Gallagher stand. Of course, the advertisement we well know of Sports Direct everywhere around the ground. The communication from him himself, but also the Lee Charney. That probably extends to a few other people in the club. And of course, the lack of spending. We'll try and talk about positives very shortly. I don't think there'll be many, but what will he be remembered for, Sam?
Destroying the soul of Newcastle United and many of its club legends. There's not going to be any. He won't be fondly remembered, and it is just a case of don't let the door at you on the way out. It cannot come soon enough, because everyone's just sick to death of this takeover saga. It's not been going on for weeks. It's been going on for years. So we just want it. It's just going to be such a relief when it all is finished and done with, and we can kind of start looking forward to things again rather than dreading what's around the corner.
Right, what we want from you lot in the chat, remember, get your WhatsApp open and fire across a message. We want to get the worst 5 in order from top to bottom. So we want to know from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here is the WhatsApp number. It was on the bottom, 0747 649 7166. You can see it on your screen. We're going to try and condense all them down and try and agree with a top 5. Get your WhatsApp open because we're going to read them towards the end of the show. I'll begin with Owen first. In order, out of those lists, what would be your 5th choice?
So my top, is this the top, the worst one?
Oh no, number 5 upwards. So what number?
Okay, so I'd probably say the least worst one, if you know what I mean, is probably, I don't know, the sacking of Chris Hughton. For me, mainly because, as we mentioned earlier, what he'd done for the club and whatnot. It's just a bit sour. It leaves a bit of a sour taste in the mouth, that one.
Sam, what you went for?
So it's really difficult to get a 5 out of all of them because, let's face it, there's no real wrong answers because they're all terrible. At number 5, I've actually gone for the Dennis Wise and Kevin Keegan saga, which basically boils down to treatment of people. You could throw in Ryan Taylor and Gutierrez in there as well, but to put it simply, just his treatment of club staff.
It's interesting. Both of us went for like a sacking, and that's what I've actually went for as well. And that's we've got a pattern here. So I've actually went for Keegan as well. Funny enough,
really,
I've went for Keegan at 5th place. I think it was brilliant when he came in. You thought, right, Mike Ashley's done something, because Mike Ashley at the time wasn't hated. He was fairly new. He was stricken in fans and all of that. And when he brought Keegan in, we weren't bothered about Allardyce going. We weren't. We were like, get him. We've got Kevin Keegan back. But then you've seen the carry on with Dennis Wise bringing in, signing players behind his back and not allowing him to go and get, it was a Bastian Schweinsteiger. Then he was going to sell James Milner behind his Modric. Yeah. And Keegan had enough. There was signings behind him. It was interesting that we've all went for sackings. So Owen, you outvoted on this one for good reasons, I guess.
Yeah.
But we're going to list number 5, Kevin Keegan sacking is 5th place. Owen, I'll let you go for 4th. What have you gone for?
So for 4th, I've gone for the lack of spending. The reason it's not higher is because it's a bad thing, but I think there's stuff that's more on a personal level that I think is unacceptable and quite frankly disgusting compared to the lack of spending is poor in terms of owning a football club, but there's things on this list that I think is inexcusable as a human being.
Sam, what you went for 4th?
So 4th, I've gone for selling the land behind the Gallagate, which you might think well, it might surprise you, but at the end of the day, it's cashing in on things that are supposed to be there to ultimately progress the club in the future. That land was there to possibly, extend the stadium, to give a real benefit to the surrounding areas, and to sell that, and not only to sell it, but to sell it on the cheap. Kind of really disgusted me. It's not having a long-term vision or long-term kind of plan. It really, really bothered me, that one.
I've gone for something totally different to yours as well. I've listed Jonas Gutierrez treatment at number 4. I think it's because I've went with, you'll probably see me pattern, is that I went with how they've treated people, but then your general fan base higher up. So I went for Jonas Gutierrez. I've just briefly talked about. I'll not go on about that too much, but I think it would need to be, tell me if I'm wrong, but probably me or Owen on that one. I think Sam's made a good point about the land, but I think what I've got listed, I don't want to reveal it just yet, but I think they're a lot more, what's the word, more important.
Yeah. I mean...
That, Sam, are you going to disagree with us?
I'm going to disagree with Owen because I've got that one slightly higher up. But that's the only
but do you understand my reasoning on that?
Yeah, that's why I've got it higher up.
Okay.
I've got that, Owen, higher up as well.
Okay,
so
right.
We've all got it in the top 5.
Yeah.
So we need to probably whittle that down. But I think we're at deadlock. Let the comments decide on that one. Who would you pick at 4th choice? Would you pick the lack of investment, the land behind the Gallagher, or the treatment of Jonas Gutierrez? Please let us know in the comments, and yous will decide that one. I'll start this one. In 3rd place, I've gone for the lack of money being invested at 3rd place. I don't have to tell you. I don't have to tell everybody who's watching what went on the last 13 years with Mike Ashley. You can see it yourselves. we haven't progressed. We've had one good season under Alan Pardew, if you want to call that a fluke. I don't know. I probably disagree saying it's a fluke. 38 games is not a fluke. But that's one good season that we've had. And the rest has been pretty much mid-table, or we've been relegated or spent 2 seasons in the Championship. And I just think that as Newcastle fans, before Mike Ashley came in, we were bigger than Spurs and we were bigger than Manchester City. We were, I'll say that, and I've said that on record numerous times. They've blown us away. They've went streets, levels, worlds in front of us. And we've went stale. That's what we have. We went stale. We came down, came up, yeah, but we don't spend much money. Granted, we have with Joe Litton, but we sold Perez for 30. So I'll put that in 3rd place. Sam, I'll come to you. Where have you gone with 3rd?
Okay, I'll put that one higher. So 3rd, I've kind of tied in basically the stadium and around there. So the name change, the Shearer's Bar name change, and the Sports Direct tat just littering the place. I've kind of all tied that in as one because they're all kind of related and equally abhorrent. So it's just, it makes the place look cheap. There used to be a real prestige and a real polished look about St James's Park, which kind of gave me butterflies whenever I used to see the stadium on the hill just off the A1 coming up. And it's just that white, red and blue branding everywhere just looks disgusting. And I can't wait for it to come down.
We will talk about that, Lewis, in the live chat. We'll try and get some positive out of Ashley. That'll be tough. Owen, what have you went for 3rd place?
I've gone with the same as Sam. I did exactly the same thing, tied in all those things together because I think they all fit under the same umbrella. What he's basically done is used Newcastle United as his cash cow, as his notice board, if you like, to advertise his businesses, to completely ruin what St James's Park is, from Shearer's Bar to being named 9 Bar to having Sports Direct plastered on the roof of the Gallagher end at one point and having the signs all the way around the stadium. Those sort of things, I think they all just tie in together, and they could be higher up the list because they did piss on a lot of fans' parades. But I think there's still things that are worse than using Newcastle United as his notice board, if you like.
I think you've cheated a little bit by putting a few together, but I think you win that one. I think I'll pass that over, but I still think it's hugely important. Lack of money. I think maybe investments maybe have gone higher. Let's go with you, Sam. What have you went for 2nd?
Communication. Again, that might surprise the lack of communication. Yeah, it might surprise a few people. I've gone for it that high, but what came out of my interview with Henry Winter, which if you haven't seen it, you really need to, is that they're aware of their lack of communication and they're still not doing anything about it. Henry Winter told the upper echelons, not Ashley himself, but he said in the interview, not to give too much away because I want you to go and watch it. Basically, he spoke to people and they're aware of it. Henry Winter pleaded the case to, show a bit of empathy and show that you're human, that you're running such a special club, and nothing's changed, has it? And this was years ago. I think it's downright disgusting how they've treated sections of the fan base, and it's just how they've treated us with utter contempt, the same as their staff members and club legends. It's just absolutely disgusting.
Owen, what have you went for 2nd?
So this was a difficult one for me because I wanted to put Gutierrez in this list because of the way they treated him, especially after what he'd been through as well. Like, it's sort of really upsetting, to be honest. It sort of mellows this list down a little bit, lessens the anger and makes you more upset. I really wanted to put Gutierrez in here, but if you look at what the treatment of Rafa did to the club afterwards, you look at the start of this season with the boycotts and loads of people not wanting to come back and the complete disarray. What did we know what direction we were going after Rafa left? No. I think that's my place for number 2 because of just the absolute havoc it caused once he was allowed to leave.
I have agreed with Sam once again. I went for communication number 2. Look, yeah, I can just carry on what Sam said. I think we've lacked it massively. Tell us why you're doing it. Tell us why you're putting the prices up. We might not agree, but we can understand. We've never had stuff like that. Why are you going for Joe Linton? Tell us who scouted him. Why is the back of the stadium not being painted? I could go on and on and on. Why is the Sports Direct blah, 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 blah. I could go on and on and on. That's a key factor, a massive key factor in any group, event, organisation, company, you name it. If you can't communicate with one another, somewhere down the line, there'll be a problem. So communication is massive for me. So I think, Owen, you're going to be outvoted on that one, unfortunately. But again, for the right reasons for that one. But the big one, and none of you have said it, I mean, I haven't said it. I'm sure you're all going to say it. Please say it, please. What's number 1, Owen?
Well, it's a bit of pressure now. You've already said it, Lee. So my number 1 was the communication, which you guys have just said, because I feel like that is old.
To stop, have you noticed all 3 will put it in the top 2?
Yeah. I think communication, just to put my say on, I think communication is what ultimately a football club revolves around. You cannot have football without communication. Football's all about fans and the people who invest their time and money into the club, and to just completely wipe them from the equation and just have Mike Ashley and co running the circus, if you like. It just epitomizes really exactly what kind of man he is. And I think it's one of the most important things on this list. And you mustn't forget that what we've had to endure as fans, not knowing as much as we possibly could have. If you look at other clubs, Leicester, I think of, especially in terms of communication, they're spot on with their communication. And Newcastle at the moment could only dream of such a thing.
Yeah, we've just talked about communication. I've got to agree, it's got to be right up there. I'll reveal my number 1 is the stadium name change for me. That was taking the piss out for us. I can't allow that to happen again. When I say I can't, I'll be really upset. I'll probably come on YouTube and be like what I used to be, just kick my sofa, smash my Sky remote up, just go wild, because it's a DNA, it's a Geordie DNA, it's who you are. It is us. That represents us. Yes, the stadium isn't looking great at some parts, but it's still us. It's your badge, it's your shirt, it's your stadium. It's what we are. It's like St. James's Park. It's like, if you're not from the area, if you're a Mansfield fan, I don't know why I'm saying Mansfield, or a Rangers fan, or a Southampton fan, or whatever, you know St. James's Park. You know it's in the city centre. You know it presents Geordies. You know it's us. It's Newcastle people. And for me, when he named that stadium, remember it was named twice because it was the Sports Direct Arena, and then it got slightly alternated, didn't it? It was a Sports Direct Arena at St. James's Park. And then it's obviously the PR stunt. It was a PR stunt with Wonga to come in and change the name. That wasn't Wonga at all. That was just a publicity stunt, because you've got it. And that's probably another one, a gambling. No one likes Wonga. So for me, it has to be stadium name change. That's the dag on the heart. And I've said if the new owners come in and they change that name, all as much as I love to see it, I'll be pretty upset. Sam, what's your number 1?
Lack of spending, and strap yourselves in because I've got quite a few reasons. So at the end of the day, you're a football club, so you're in a results-based business, and what happens on the pitch matters most. The fact of the matter is that 2 relegations, which could have easily been avoided by such cretinous management from in the director room.
Try not.
Yeah, I know we can swear, but there's no need to go overboard. But the fact, and the sheer utter contempt of that Sky interview where he said he won't compete with countries, we don't expect him to. No one expects him to. But at the end of the day, when you constantly and consistently making a profit in every transfer window, despite saying you've got to sell to buy, and you've got all the funds from the player sales, you've got all of that to spend, and it never happened. Never happened. Even when we did well and finished 5th, what did we then do that summer to build on that finish? to prepare ourselves.
Gail Bigger-Romano.
And that was it. Two defensive midfielders. To prepare yourself to build on the 5th place finish in the Premier League and to attack the Europa League. It was absolutely awful. Even that positive season got turned into a negative because of that. Then you spent 2 years fucking about trying to find a striker. So
there it is.
And you're trying to get people in on loan, like the whole Remy thing, Luke de Jong on loan, Doumbia. The list goes on. Just terrible, terrible strikers. Riviere, and it's just an absolute. And you're still consistently making profit, and you get relegated again. The first time was unacceptable. The second time, Jesus Christ, absolutely unacceptable. If that would have been any of us three, we'd have been sacked for doing the job he's done.
Well, you get
sacked.
We put on there like.
And the thing is, the whole thing in the Championship as well, when we went down, we made a profit that transfer window, selling Wijnaldum and Sissoko, and you got Rio Ferdinand spouting crap on BT Sport saying we should say thank you. I don't think so.
I think we should say
I don't think so at all. Well, yeah, very good. I have on NFTV. Although I did swear on our Instagram live last week, but I suppose that's not.
Last week, that was the other day, man.
But still, yeah, I know. But at the end of the day, spending, in my opinion, should be number one because it's the root of pretty much all the problems during his tenure at St James's. And even like certain transfer strategies which have been changed here, there and everywhere, they've just not worked. They've not spent the money the right way. We get painted out to expect a transfer record every transfer window when the fact is we only had the first one a year and a bit ago. It's just been an absolute farce.
Nicely on to Lewis Taylor says, I'm thrilled he's going, by the way. I just find it interesting. Say people think he's actually done anything right in his time, which leaves me nicely on. And I was thinking off the top of my head, Rafa Benitez. And
no, Rafa approached him, not the other way around.
But you still got Rafa to come to the club. If there was any highlights, Sam, would it be because when we say 5th place is a highlight, I don't think that's Mike Ashley. I think that's Alan Pardew deserves that credit because he didn't get much money. I don't think it's Ashley should deserve that. For me, I'm struggling. I really am. I think having Rafa Benitez was a massive positive because that made him look better than what he is. And I think the club being financially stable to some extent is better than being in debt because you worry about the likes of even now coronavirus, clubs could go out of business or risk, or even look at Bury, you look at Bolton, we're nowhere near that, which is, and I hate to credit him, but at least we're not that. And that's the only positives that I can see too, for me.
I mean,
it's definitely, I just think he'd be such better suited for like a Bury or a League One club where if they rename the stadium as a sponsorship to bring in a few extra quid every year, then it's fine. You're not expected to spend massive amounts, so it's fine. I mean, the way we were going under Freddie Shepherd and Sir John, yes, I'm fine. John Bruce, thank you, I'm perfect. I'll be even better when the takeover goes through. But the way we were going was unsustainable. We could have ended up like a Leeds because we weren't qualifying for the Champions League anymore. So famously, Mike Ashley didn't do his due diligence. So had he have done that, would he have gone through with the purchase of the club, seeing the balance sheets as they were? I'm not so sure.
Owen, can you name anything different? There's a point there, Lawrence Taylor. Graham Carr should be given the credit. But is there any other positives than what we've mentioned?
I think you cannot really. I think there's positive things that have happened in his tenure, but you cannot credit Ashley for it. It's things that have happened by chance. We've had some brilliant moments in these 13 years. Let's not kid ourselves. Certain players who've turned into cult heroes, finishing 5th, those sort of things. We've also had very, very very big negatives. I think, if I'm correct, he actually bought the club out of a lot of debt when he eventually came to Newcastle, or when he bought us out, whatever. He removed a lot of debt, so I guess you could put that as a positive because he's got us out of a poor financial situation. But then from what he's done from there on is just unacceptable. I know we could be in the same position as the Mackhams right now, struggling in League One. And yeah, it's just, I think a lot of fans don't really understand though what it's exactly like to have Mike Ashley as the owner, because from the outside I've had a lot of people say to me, he's not that bad. Look, he spent 40 million on Joe Linton. Yes, you've been relegated twice, but you're still in the Premier League. You're not Sunderland, you're not Leeds, you're not Bury. He's putting money into the club, he's keeping you up and stuff. But it's not that. If you like that list we've got there, if you've seen that list, if you've seen everything that he's done in his 13 years that he's been here, you would think, what a disgust. If you didn't know who'd done all that stuff and you saw that list, you think, what a disgusting man. And if I was to then reveal that as Mike Ashley, they go, oh, sorry, didn't realise. I think people forget, and I don't think people really do their research enough to understand how poor of an owner he actually is. And yes, I completely understand he could be far worse, and we could be in a far worse position than we're in right now. But by God, has this been awful? By God, has this 13 years been awful? And if it goes on any longer, and he just seems to have neglected us the more we've gone on. I think if we'd go on any longer, we could eventually end up drowning, if you like. I think that's probably the best term, drowning in what has been such poor management of the club, and end up being in League One or something like that.
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs. It's a negative. Let's have a look before we wrap up tonight's show by reading out your WhatsApp. This is your last chance to get your WhatsApps coming through as well. I've knocked that flying. Let me just put that back again. I don't know how to fix that. There we go. So this is the WhatsApp stuff. We've got a few to come through. Apologise again if your name is being shown. Not much I can do on that. Sorry about that, about your number. How long do you expect, once the takeover is complete, for the new owners to make a statement of intent? Owen, how long will it take for the statement to come out? But not just the statement of intent.
I think in terms of a statement, when they do buy the club, I think instantly. Intent, which is what the question is about, I think the first thing they can probably do is address the fans directly, and say, look, we're on your side and stuff, and just make that connection with the fans instantly, so we know they're the right ones. Or if that doesn't happen, another thing I'd like to see is just a decent amount of money spent in the transfer window on players that we actually need and actually want, and not just 40 million on Boubakary Soumaré from Lille. Then there's no point buying him because we have enough midfielders. Someone who we really need, like a right back or something, and just to prove that like they are interested in actually improving the team.
Yeah, Lawrence Taylor, thanks again, Lawrence, for all the interaction tonight. Number one, stadium name change. Yeah, that's pretty high up, so Lawrence agrees with that. You can see his list there. 5, Second Houghton. 4, treatment of Jonas. 3, Keegan leaving. Rafa leaving. 2, and the stadium name change. The last one of the night is Steve from Ashton. Any day now. Bye-bye, Ash. Hello, Cash. Steve Ashton. See what he's done there. How long do you reckon, Sam? Because it's all...
Why do you have to ask me that question? God, no. Look, the latest report... The latest report, I reckon, is June the 1st, which is interesting when, kind of some shops and lockdowns eased even further. So conspiracy theorists out there may believe it hasn't been released because of lockdown for fear of crowding at St James's Park. Who knows? But look, it is a case now of when and not if. It's taken so much longer than we've all would have thought, but I mean, sooner the better, because my wife's due to give birth any week now. So, I want to partake in cans as well.
Yeah, we are having a live stream on Takeover Night, which will be interesting. We might regret it the next morning with a few headaches as well. Firstly, everybody who's sent some WhatsApps in, some comments in, thank you very much for all of your interaction. Owen did a fantastic job on the stats on the second part. I thoroughly enjoyed that, watching that in the background, learning something. You're never too old to learn. And we're all going to get hammered very, very shortly on some Thatchers. We're having a party at Sam's once his Mrs. Pops Takeover is at his place. But what's coming up on the channel deck quickly, we're going to do a live stream is just basically about how the channel's progressed, because we're 4 years old just the other day as well. So we're going to bring yous lot into the stream, which will be interesting. And we're going to be talking just crap. And this went on for 2 hours and 20 minutes, so it's been a long one. But yeah, Mr. PG's off and have a bit more license to do what we want on the show, which is fabulous. Owen, enjoyed it?
Yep, absolutely. As always, thoroughly enjoyed it.
Sam, enjoyed it?
Yeah, good crack as always.
Cool, and thank you for Johnny and Rob earlier on and Kyle in the middle section. Enjoy your night, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.